Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. I have arrived at a place that surrounds myself in industry. And yes, that is a metaphor for the topic of today. I promised you last week that there would be an update regarding the situation with the job that I mentioned before, where I was very vague about what it actually involved because I wasn't entirely told, and no one was actually quite sure what had happened. So I promised that by the time that I knew for certain, I would definitely give an update regarding the situation. And yes, I'm pretty sure I put this in the title already, so there's no point having a cliffhanger, but I got the job. So, or rather, let's just say they created the job and then gave it to me. Again, not entirely sure how exactly that goes down, but I'll just go through basically how we arrived at this moment. So, so after last Walking Wednesday, I said that what I was going to be doing was compiling a bunch of things and sending them over, as in like compiling examples of the video editing that I was capable of doing myself, and all the different methods I could use. And then I mentioned briefly that I also sent in some songs, the few bits of Spanish that I'd actually presented on the channel, because historically when I do stuff on this channel in Spanish, it doesn't always perform the best. In fact, it rarely did back in the day. I don't know about now. But yeah, so basically everything. And I said that I was bursting with ideas based on the conversation I had with the guy who I mentioned previously. I've also been cautious not to say the guy's name. I'm allowed to talk about whatever. He mentioned that I could say anything. There's no confidentiality or stuff to worry about. But yeah, just for the sake of argument, just in case, I will give him a nickname. So let's call him Denethor, because I've just pledged my services to him. If you understand the reference, then I salute you. So during my last conversation with Denethor last week, that's what he did. He mentioned everything, and he also said any other ideas that I had that could make their message appeal to a younger audience, then by all means, that would be something that would be more than ideal to investigate. So of course I brought up Gacha, which is why the title of the last video was I may have got a job thanks to Gacha, and now indeed I have to some extent. To some extent thanks to Gacha, the job is mine. But I also mentioned that I taught him what a VTuber was, very briefly, just going through all those options. And then what he said was, once I gave him the list of everything, all the videos that I deemed worthy, he said, okay, well, I'll send them off to the people at Info Veritas and University of Charles III in Madrid or whatever, and I'll get back as soon as I know something. So I was there most days, just be like, okay, fine, I await your message. Any day now. Any moment. And then, of course, today, in fact, he says to me, oh, how could, when can I speak to you? And so, yeah, I had to reschedule Walking Wednesday, and because that was, because we were traveling down here, there was a whole mess. Oh, a different path. I'm going to go down this path. I haven't been down here before. Away from the cars. So, yeah, we talked about that. And then, yeah, we arranged based on when he had to pick up his daughter from school and all that stuff. Yeah, so, I guess let's call her Boromira. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so then the actual conversation about what I was going to be to do, he said that people got back to him And originally the whole idea was that I was going to just be translating these videos that had already been presented, as in they'd already been made by a company called Truth Labs, and it's all about educating people about disinformation. And they're the ones that I mentioned briefly last time were very corporate at the best of times, and that's why they wouldn't appeal to a younger audience, in my opinion, as well as the opinion of Denethor. And so we broke a few of those down again, just to make sure, because as it turns out, after mentioning all the stuff that I'd done previously and about what I could do, they just went, yeah, we want you to do this thing though still, the thing that we originally said. Now, of course, that's different. I was kind of expecting that may happen because on one hand, of course, you have like a direct contact with someone like Denethor, who's actually, I didn't say this before, but he has known me for years, since I was a teenager, and he knows a little bit about how my main focus, of course, in life is creativity, and my goal is to entertain as well as educate, and find something that make my own unique mark, I should say. So, with that knowledge, it's different talking to Denethor versus talking about these, corporate companies that just, they have their ideas already made and how they're going to do that. So, I guess for now, the whole aspect of, the originality, it's not entirely present there, because it is just, it's translation work, but at the same time, it is also the actual production of the videos and the editing of how I could go about doing that. One of my main concerns beforehand with that idea was that I was going to have to work around superimposing new text over the top of other stuff, and as it turns out, not really. But they're fine with that. They're okay with having English text on there. That is something that a lot of Spanish watchers of video media in general are used to, because when you get stuff that is dubbed, they just do that. They either put like really boring subtitles at the bottom, or a narrator will read it out, or they'll just ignore it. Now that I think about it, I could mention that I could actually do some text at the bottom, like some like captions for that purpose. Yeah. Well, I'll send 2 versions of those videos when I get around to them. Because obviously I'm going to be narrating that part, so it is a bit of voice acting as well. So, yeah, quite a lot, in fact. Even though it is less than I thought, and also it does come with limited time. The agreement only goes up to 3 months, which on one hand I understand, because as if it turns out that something else pops up for me, or I don't end up enjoying this or anything, then that needs to be addressed. And also the fact is that I can that Denethor is very adamant about keeping me, making sure that I can do my other projects as well. Keep the creative side of myself going, and also just he thinks it's a better balance overall as to how that can go, how a work-life interaction should be. So all good things there, but yeah. So of course, even if it is not quite what I was expecting, however, it is interesting because the whole campaign centers around disinformation, like I said before, about how Truth Labs are involved, and Denethor's main concern is just making sure that society is not as disinformed from how they would as they would be under normal circumstances. So, yeah. Given that, you also mentioned manipulation tactics and stuff. It's interesting because after talking about the fact that that my first goal is to get one of those videos translated and sent in as a proof of concept, and then eventually present it to people at Google Jigsaw in London. He wants me to do that. Go figure. So eventually, other than that, I need to pick a path. Sorry, new territory. So I'm just swerving around, seeing what I can see. Yeah. So given that, and then afterwards, he doesn't know how long the video production will take, which is why he gave the 3-month time anyway. He says he's not worried about how many videos are done in that time, just that wants to work with me during that extent to make sure they're good. However, this is where it sort of gets a little bit ironic in a way, because unintentionally he may have used the tactic on me, because what he might not realize about me is that because of course I was immediately bursting with like other ideas that I could do and all these ambitious things, but then he said, oh, we'll do this one first, and if there's time later, do all these things. That inadvertently says to me, as soon as I finish with those 5 or 6 videos that Truth Labs have sent, the sooner I can actually get to doing other things, the more ambitious stuff that will, inevitably increase the scope of what they know I can offer. Now I know he didn't mean to do that. That's just me messing around, being silly with the idea. So yeah, I guess that does give me an incentive to, more of an incentive to finish the stuff quickly rather than, obviously helping the guy out. Because yeah, as much as I'm not sure what I'm going to say to Google Jigsaw if this all goes the way that it is, then I still want to make sure that I do the best I can, quickly or otherwise. I want to make sure that the thing is actually good, and that I'm able to work on it with efficiency and without stress, which is the main concerns of Denethor as well. So yeah, I'm really happy. We found a common ground, and while I wasn't really entirely sure that disinformation was going to be my first step into professional work, especially because actually technically speaking that will be my second ever paid voice acting gig, just by definition. But here we are. And on one hand, I could say that it's almost a defeat. But the only reason I would say that is because for years in parent-teacher meetings or in what else? Or just outside conversation, or in terms of higher education stuff, like meetings and everything. My dad would always mention somewhere that he thought I'd be great at translation work. And I always thought, well, yes, I would be, but it's just not what I want to do. That's what I would say anyway. It's not what I want to do, because that's just, taking stuff that other people have done and just applying, almost no spin of my own. I think it goes back to one of my basic impulses as a creative person, is that yes, I will use stuff made by other people, but I always want to actually make it my own. It's the same concern that I had when I started making reaction videos. Especially as back in the day, reaction videos were really seen as just the laziest form of content that there was, and that everyone who tried them, no one was watching the person, they were watching the entertaining video that they had actually selected. And yes, that was a problem for a while. I do agree. But that's not what I want to do, so that's why I teeter-totter between saying review/reaction during the days of when I was reviewing When Angels Fall, or the first AFMAL reviews that I did of Phoenix Drop graduation days. Because I want people to know that it was going to be different. I want people to know that that this was done by me and not just by literally anyone else. There are hundreds of translators, thousands, millions probably, I don't know. There are people that can do exactly that. But if I can show that I can do something in a way that nobody else can, that is what I want to do. I want to do the most, and that goes back to the reaction thing, and it also goes back to the idea of doing cover songs versus parodies. Because back in the day, that was the thing that I struggled with too. That people would ask me sometimes to do certain cover songs. And I was like, well, no thanks, because all I'm doing is just singing something that has been made famous by somebody else, written by somebody else, and performed by me, therefore made much, much worse. I mean, this is back before I had like any vocal range whatsoever. It was like right after I hit puberty. So I knew that the thing that was going to make me stand out was the writing. If anything, even The Mutant Girl is somewhat of a proof of that, because I knew that I wasn't going to be the best Gacha editor. I said I was going to be the best voice director or sound processor or anything. All that I knew was that motorbikes are really loud and annoying and they don't work on Wednesdays. All that I knew was that I was a better writer than a lot of people who were doing Gacha, especially at the time. So that's what I was focused on. I mean, nowadays as well, even when I'm doing reviews, I focus a lot on the story and on the technical side, which I've learned ever since, mainly because those are the skills that I have, and there's stuff I can actually offer to improve, rather than just saying, animate better, please, person who has done more animation than I have. That's so I always want something to be unique to me. That's why I pause during reactions and talk for ages, invite guests over and have a back and forth with them and offer exchanges of thoughts, and that's why I always do parodies. So even if I'm using like all original songs with other instrumentals, even if I'm using other instrumentals, I've actually written the actual thing, or I've arranged the video. Even nowadays, editing the video, I take as a sign of something that I can do myself, which wasn't really the case before because I wasn't really doing much. But that brings me back really nicely to what I was saying about the whole disinformation aspect. It's not just a translator work. It's not just a job translating stuff into Spanish. It's a job editing the videos into something much more unique, making a few choices myself how to go, picking out how the dialogue is actually going to sound in them, and voicing the narration myself. Denethor said that I have a great voice, so he's confident in that aspect of me, even if he doesn't know that I've been trying to pursue professional voice acting now for a few months. But then again, he also did say that I know more Castellano than he does, and pretty sure he's a native speaker, so take his word with a grain of salt, but but still, it was nice to say the way. It shows that he has confidence in me, that he knows he's working around having ways that I can be a unique voice. Because what I want to do, I want to be a unique voice. I want to make an impact. I don't know if that sounds too selfish or not to say, oh yeah, I want to stand out in this certain way or something. I guess it might be, but what the heck, I do. I can't pretend Like, that's not a thing that always concerns me. I mean, even on the Butter Punch, I joke about how I'm a copy of Masako and such. That's really because this thing online called the remix strategy, which is that you take some format that you know has worked in the past and make your own spin on it. And in a way, I have. Unlike Masako X, I tend to always address the filler in Dragon Ball What Ifs. I have a different process for how our OCs go and how the butterfly effect can apply. I've occasionally got into the geography of the world itself of Dragon Ball, which I don't think he's done. And I've also brought back a few old powers that some of the characters have had that I thought, well, why don't they use it here? Yeah, why don't they use it here? This is a new situation. Let's put that back in here. So yes, I do have a different process now, and yes, people joke about the whole Masako thing, because I do. I mean, yes, my format looks very similar to his, minus the whole VTuber thing now, which Masako is actually going to do fairly soon for the Lemon Grove. So that won't be original for some time. And then, of course, there's the actual scenarios themselves where he actually is now doing his own stuff, like Water Piccolo had a son and everything. But yeah, Mujang has been around for a lot longer than Bansuri has. So, a lot longer. A lot longer than Bansuri has. Yeah. So yeah. I always find some way where it's like, okay, even if it doesn't work the best, I can do it myself, and that's really the kick that I get out of being creative in general, is actually making a difference for people, but also knowing that only I could have made that same difference for them. So in a way, it's interesting that, you know, I have ended up happy, at least right now, before I start even doing the thing. Denethor is happy. I hope the corporate team people are happy or whatever. And of course, my dad's happy. So we all win. So yeah, please leave a like or dislike, because your opinion matters. If you haven't done so already, keep watching. I need more watch hours still. I'm going to be focusing more on that again now, because I know how to balance that. And on that note, until next time, farewell.